Jerry Jones made his first appearance on 105.3 The Fan ever since threatening to fire the radio hosts, and he wasted no time in getting back in the thick of the headlines because he just put Mike McCarthy on blast. So let's break it down and much more on this episode of Cowboys Digest. Welcome in, everybody, to Cowboys Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, and today we're going to be breaking down the comments that were made by Jerry Jones on Dallas radio, calling out Mike McCarthy, and he did not mince his words. He did not hold back in his assessment of his head coach through 7 weeks of the National Football League season. But before we get into all of that, I want to let you know that around 85% of you watching these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So go ahead and hit that sub button. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me out a ton. But let's get straight into it. And this is what Jerry Jones had to say on 105.3 The Fan. We're designing bad plays. We're designing bad concepts. He added, there's some of that, but there's also some of execution, some of the talent. I like our talent, but young talent has a few more mistakes associated with it than if you're dealing with a veteran player. So basically, Jerry Jones really said Mike McCarthy is designing bad plays and bad concepts on offense. And this is coming just a day after Mike McCarthy had this to say, that he loves the effort of the group. He loves the group in general, but he says the detail and attention is not really where it needs to be. And you can pause and read this entire quote here. That tells you that the effort and energy is there, but the detail and attention needs to go up. That's going to be a big part of what they address going forward. We're not as detailed in a number of areas on our football team, which is normal for any team that I've ever coached or been a part of, which is totally ridiculous to me, which is why practices before the season, practices during the week, this is what it's for. You played against the Lions at home, and I understand that you were shorthanded, but the Lions were damn well prepared for that one. They came into AT&T Stadium and they steamrolled you. They embarrassed you, and they did not hold back. They said, we're going to come in here, we're going to kick your ass, and there's nothing you can do about it. That is what happened at AT&T Stadium between the Lions and the Cowboys. What did the Cowboys do? They pretty much rolled over, and they showed that they were overmatched coaching-wise, personnel-wise, and in pretty much every facet of the game. So that to me says that there is a lack of cohesion on the coaching staff and a lack of cohesion amongst the players as well. You saw a lot of them making business decisions, maybe not running as hard as they should be or not tackling as hard as they should be against Detroit when the game got out of hand. That to me is unacceptable. That all falls on the coach, and it all stems from the top. It all starts with Jerry Jones, who wants his fingerprints all over his roster. He has it. He's got that. There's no doubt that this is a Jerry Jones built team, and I think the proof is in the pudding. He has a coach that will never say anything bad about him, will never say anything bad about the team, and he has a bunch of players that he's loyal to that maybe he shouldn't be loyal to, that maybe he's overly loyal to. So I don't know. It's a culture thing at this point with the Dallas Cowboys. But the fact that Jerry Jones is pretty much scot-free after it all being his fault. It's all his fault. The fact that he put this roster in place, he made minimal additions in the offseason. You could even argue he made 0 additions because of the way that those guys have performed so far in the early portion of the season. And I can't even call it the early portion of the season anymore. We're 7 weeks in. Week 8 is right around the corner, just a couple of days away. And the Cowboys sit at 3-3, and they're going into Santa Clara against a team that is not a good matchup for them. They are going to struggle against the San Francisco 49ers, and they're set to get Christian McCaffrey back. Ayuk is out for the season. That's a big blow for them, but they got other weapons. And Brock Purdy usually does whatever he wants and shreds the Dallas secondary whenever those two teams match up. And he had this to say about his episode last week on calling out the radio hosts. He crashed out, basically. So shout out to Dov Kleiman for that. I don't have anything to say about last week. I'm surprised last week got the attention it got. Zero accountability. And it doesn't shock me one bit that Jerry Jones is taking that route here. He called out the radio hosts. He threatened to have them fired after asking him fair questions. Dallas fans are wondering what is going on with this team. Why are you unable to stop the run? Why are you getting stomped out at home? Why does this keep repeatedly happening, and Jerry Jones didn't have an answer. He just came at them, he attacked them, he kind of big broed them in a sense where he threatened to fire them, threatened to contact the bosses. I don't know what went on there behind the scenes, but Jerry was not having that questioning, that line of questioning, and he made an ass of himself, pretty much. That's what it sounded like, and zero accountability is right. Zero accountability. He should have apologized because he was totally out of line. They're just doing their job. And Jerry said, it's not your job to call me out. It's not your job to ask me what I've been doing wrong. And again, he brought up the fact that he purchased the Dallas Cowboys. And that was a stroke of genius. Sure, Jerry, but it's been 30 years since you've won a Super Bowl. Or almost 30 years. So maybe the grass isn't always as green as you're making it out to be. And this is what he had to say about Derrick Henry, who had yet another big game yesterday with the Baltimore Ravens. He equated the situation to his wife of 60-something years, bringing something up that he had done in the past and wondering why he did the thing in question, and said he didn't have a proper answer. He also, shocker here, brought up originally buying the Dallas Cowboys and how it was amazing and how he pulled off this super cunning move and basically everyone should tell him how awesome he is. Jerry is a front runner, pretty much kind of like this Cowboys roster. They're great when they're up. The fan base is running wild after a victory, after a close victory, and then we're nowhere to be found when we lose. And Jerry Jones is kind of that way as well. He runs his mouth. He wants all the credit in the world when things go right, but when things go wrong, it's a collective effort, and we're designing bad plays. We're designing bad concepts. Well, maybe you designed a bad roster. Did you ever think about that, Jerry? I'm not a Mike McCarthy supporter here. I'm not going to say that he is the answer to the Cowboys' problems, but I believe it runs a lot deeper than just him. And I don't think he's the only one calling plays out there on the sideline. I'm sure that Jerry Jones is in his ear throughout the week saying what he wants to run, what kind of schemes he wants to employ. And Shannon Sharp even called him out on First Take today, saying that it's clear that Jerry just doesn't understand football. He doesn't understand football, and I'm sure he does. He's been around the game for the better part of 3 decades now, so he understands the game on a pretty deep level, but maybe not as much as an actual GM does. So he wants to have all the control. He wants to be the sole reason why the Dallas Cowboys get back to glory, and he has that opportunity if he spends the money, if he builds the proper roster, and if he lets guys coach the way that they're supposed to be coached. But he's not letting that happen. He wants to be involved in every decision, and he has said it himself. There is nothing that happens with the Dallas Cowboys that I am not involved in directly. So there you go, Jerry. You got your wish. This is what you wanted. You want to be the reason why the Cowboys accomplish anything? Well, you got to be able to shoulder the blame as well. So for him to be calling out Mike McCarthy, it makes sense. I think Mike McCarthy's been poor all season long in the play calling areas and just overall getting the most out of the talent that he has on the field. But there isn't much talent to speak of. Aside from CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Jake Ferguson on the offensive side of the ball, and Tyler Smith as well, there just isn't much there. And then you go over to the defense, you're dealing with a ton of injuries because of the lack of depth that you acquired in the offseason. Micah Parsons is out. DeMarcus Lawrence is out. Those guys are irreplaceable, but you did little to nothing to address the lack of depth on that defensive line. Nothing. You brought in Eric Kendricks, who was also out last week, and that was a huge loss. You have good pieces. You have a decent foundation, but you didn't spend. You still have $25 million worth of cap space that is untouched. You signed Dak Prescott. You wanted your flowers. You got them. You signed CeeDee Lamb. You wanted your flowers. You got them yet again. Those guys need to be better. You need to be better. The entire Dallas Cowboys organization needs to be better, and it's concerning. It's concerning that this keeps on happening, and it's just a carousel of comedy. It's a carousel of jokes here by Jerry Jones and the rest of the front office and the rest of the coaching staff. There is no one taking accountability here. There is no one saying, I need to be better. And that, to me, is a huge problem. There is no culture that has been established on this team. They don't play hard. they don't buy into anything, and it reflects in their record. It reflects in their lack of playoff success. Nothing really goes right for them, and you could talk about the regular season all you want. The back-to-back-to-back 12-win regular seasons, that's fine. But you make your money in the playoffs, and the Cowboys have not been to an NFC Championship game in almost 30 years. And I can guarantee you that they're not going to get back there this year because the Lions are better than them. The Packers are better than them. The Vikings are better than them. There are so many teams that are better than the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are the third best team in their division. Maybe that changes now with Jaden Daniels out for a couple of weeks here for the Commanders, but there's a lot that needs to change here, and Jerry doesn't want to make any changes. He just wants to point fingers, and the latest finger that he pointed was directed at Mike McCarthy. That'll wrap it up for this episode of Cowboys Digest. Again, guys, make sure to hit the subscribe button because we're very close to my goal of 2,000, so it'd mean the world to me. And you guys have been killing it with the support. So even though the outlook is kind of bleak right now for the Dallas Cowboys and the rest of the season going forward, I would appreciate it if you stuck around because I'll have you covered on everything that you need Cowboys related. So make sure to stick around for that, and I will see you all tomorrow. Go Cowboys.